The fatal flaw that kills 99% of survivors from Mars. If the world as we know it ends, humanity won't just disappear, it'll fracture. People will band together, forming new tribes, each built around a core strategy they're banking on for survival. The problem is, most of these strategies are built on a single fatal flaw, a critical weakness that all but guarantees they won't make it in the long run. Think about it. The reinforced bunker, the roving gang, the isolated cabin in the woods, they all sound good on paper, but they're plans for surviving the end of the world, not for living in the one that comes next. Today we're going to expose the weakness shared by almost every survival plan and reveal the one adaptive strategy almost nobody considers, that bunker you've been dreaming of. It could easily become your tomb. The army you raise could turn on you. The isolation you're counting on might just starve you. Almost every survival plan you've ever heard of is broken. Why? Because survival isn't a checklist you complete, it's a process you adapt to. And the first step is realizing the biggest threat isn't the chaos outside your walls, it's the flawed logic you built them with. The hoarders, the illusion of static security. Let's begin with the archetype everyone defaults to, the hoarder. These are your classic preppers. They spend years, even decades, preparing for doomsday. Their strength is foresight, and man can they accumulate stuff. They have the bunker, the canned food, the water purifiers, the generators. In the first chaotic days of a collapse, the hoarders look like the smartest people on Earth. While the world outside is panicking, they're secure, comfortable, and supplied. Their entire strategy is built on dominating the early phase with overwhelming static security. They have walls, food, and everything they need to wait out the storm. But this is their fatal weakness. A bunker is a fixed target. A stockpile, no matter how big, is finite. Their security is a comforting illusion, but it has a timer that's dictated by their inventory. Every can of beans, every gallon of gas, is one tick closer to zero. They see a fortress, but what they've really built is a gilded cage. It locks them in place, making them a predictable target. Sure, a well-stocked shelter can keep you safe for a while, especially from initial threats like radioactive fallout, but they're living on borrowed time. The flaw is simple. They plan to outlast the world, not adapt with it. The warlords, the myth of violent domination. Where the hoarder hunkers down, the warlord lashes out. When society fractures, some leaders see the power vacuum not as a crisis, but as an opportunity. These are the warlords. They're often charismatic, always ruthless, and they understand force. They don't hoard resources, they seize them. They build armies from the desperate and the violent, establishing control over key assets. Their strength is projecting power and dominating through sheer aggression. They create order, but it's the order of the predator, not the shepherd. For a time, it's brutally effective. They become the apex predators of a broken world, and weaker groups either serve them or are crushed. But here's the catch. The warlord's model is incredibly hard to sustain. An army is always hungry. Loyalty built on fear is brittle. It can shatter the second a stronger leader comes along. Their own aggression creates a never-ending cycle of enemies, breeding resentment with every village they conquer. Their empire is a fire that needs constant fuel, and if that fuel runs out, it consumes itself. The paradox is that their greatest strength is also what tears them apart. They are defined by conflict, and conflict is a resource-negative game. They're great at taking, but they don't create. Their reign is often spectacular, but it risks being brutally short. The wanderers and the ghosts, the limits of invisibility. While the hoarders are being besieged and the warlords are busy fighting each other, two other groups quietly endure, the wanderers and the ghosts. These folks get a fundamental truth of the new world. What can't be found can't be killed. The wanderers survive through mobility and invisibility. They're nomads, moving from place to place, scavenging what they need and never staying long enough to become a target. Their strength lies in being everywhere and nowhere at once. They outlast bigger, slower groups by simply refusing to play their game. The ghosts take this a step further, vanishing into the deep wilderness. They have profound ecological knowledge and are truly self-sufficient. You won't see them or even know they're there. Their minimal footprint is their armor, and yet both groups hit a wall. All that moving, all that isolation makes it incredibly difficult to build deep community bonds or lasting infrastructure. Wanderers master the art of surviving day to day, but it's tough to set up a hospital, a school, or a workshop when you're always on the move. Ghosts may achieve true self-sufficiency, but they risk becoming frozen in time, cut off from new knowledge or shared innovation. Their flaw is one of scale. They master the art of not dying, but they sacrifice the ability to start rebuilding. They'll outlast many, but they may not be the ones to inherit the world. Each of these groups gets something right, but they all miss the bigger picture. The hoarder gets preparation, the warlord gets power, the wanderer gets mobility, and the ghost gets invisibility. So before we go any further, which of these groups do you naturally lean towards? Which strengths do you value most? Let us know in the comments, because understanding your own bias is the first step to overcoming it. The builders, the blueprint for a future. This brings us to our fifth group, the one that remembers the true purpose of survival, the builders. These are the engineers, farmers, medics, and teachers. Their goal isn't just to endure the collapse, but to end it. They don't want to live in the ruins, they want to build on top of them. Their strength is creating sustainable systems. While the warlord is fighting over a gas can, the builder is figuring out how to make biodiesel. While the hoarder is rationing their last bag of rice, the builder is planting the next harvest. They focus on the pillars of civilization, infrastructure, knowledge, and real community. However, the builders are profoundly vulnerable. Their greatest strength, their productivity, is also their greatest weakness. A working farm, a library, a small clinic, these are beacons of hope, which makes them prime targets for warlords and a source of envy for everyone else. They need stability and time, two luxuries that are in very short supply. Without walls and weapons, the builders are simply a farm waiting to be pillaged. They hold the blueprint for the future, but they can be easily erased by the violence of the present, the fatal flaw and the hybrid advantage. So after all that, what's the one fatal flaw that brings most of these groups down? It's not specialization. Let's be clear. In any successful community, you absolutely need specialists, farmers, medics, engineers, defenders. The real fatal flaw is strategic inflexibility. It's the rigid, dogmatic commitment to a single survival model, believing one tool can solve every problem. This brings us to the group that actually has a shot at winning, not just surviving the chaos, but leading the reconstruction. Let's call them the hybrid. A hybrid community doesn't lock into one strategy. They're fluid. They adapt. They understand that different phases of a collapse require different approaches. They combine the foresight of the hoarder, but know when to abandon a stash for the sake of mobility. They have the tactical strength of a warlord, but use it surgically, knowing that peace is more profitable than constant war. They use the wanderer's mobility to scout for a permanent defensible home where they can finally become builders, and they have the ghost's wisdom to know when to lie low and let the storm pass. A hybrid community hoards smart, wanders strategically, fights judiciously, and builds sustainably. They treat these archetypes not as identities, but as tools, and they know which tool to use for the job. They get that in a world turned upside down, rigidity is death. Flexibility is life. They don't just endure the apocalypse, they navigate it. And they're the ones who might just turn a collapse into a comeback. So the real question isn't which archetype you would be, it's could your group learn to be all of them?